challenges of climate change, the breakdown of our atmosphere and our weather systems in this country due to rising carbon dioxide to the atmosphere has created challenges like we've never seen before. Warm waters of our oceans have acted like steroids when storms reach the Gulf of Mexico to hit coasts like my home state of Louisiana. The meltdowns of the ice cap of Mount Kilimanjaro for the first time in 10,000 years. The meltdown of the continent of Greenland. And as I shared with some of you earlier, Greenland is melting at a rate that it is creating enough water per day from meltdown to cover the entire state of Texas 13 feet deep per day. The meltdowns of the permafrost in Alaska, the separation of the Gwich'in tribe from their native habitat, and those indigenous people that are having to move from one area to another for the first time in hundreds of years, have created challenges that are unprecedented. In a world that we continue to live, in a world that we continue to demand needs to be met to satisfy our gluttonous appetite for energy. In a world that demands us to reactivate activism. It demands us to start pursuing and considering careers in a green movement that calls for action to fix what has been broken. And the challenges are many. We somewhat are excited by the new administration's stimulus proposals. Stimulus will not save this country. Stimulus is only a down payment on our future. It is going to require great minds and energy and passion from all of you individually to fix what we have broken. I recently presented the commencement speech at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And I offered an apology to the students on behalf of my generations and generations before me. And I said to those students, as I say to students here at Murray State, who have spent a tremendous amount of their parents' money to study the ice caps of Kilimanjaro, I am so sorry because of the actions of my generations and generations before. The ice caps in Kilimanjaro are no longer. And for those that spent their parents' money to study the coastline of Louisiana, the coastlines of Texas, and the marshes of that great region, I'm so sorry that all that was invested into your life to prepare you to study those great marshes, the marshes have disappeared. As Louisiana loses an acre of land every 42 minutes to erosion, we have lost enough land to equal the state of Delaware. For those that desire to study the permafrost of Alaska, another apology is due because the permafrost is melting. And if you are interested in studying Greenland, Greenland has now begun to disappear. For those that desire to be in the field of meteorology and want to study weather patterns, now we're no longer living in a four-season world. It's either summer or winter, and we can't really tell when one will begin and when the other will end. We're now in a world that the 10 hottest years in recorded history have occurred since 1991. And 2005 was the warmest year in recorded history. And it is predicted that the summer that we're about to face may break the 2005 record. We're living in a different world. Well, we're living in a world, young people, that you are unfortunately disconnected from nature. When we were kids, we spent time outdoors. Our parents would tell us, when they were tired of us hanging out in the house, go outside and play. We did so. We put our hands in the soil and in the dirt, and whether we were doing it in urban communities or whether we lived on the small farms in America, we were connected to nature, young people. And now we face a challenge within your generation of nature versus Nintendo. We've got to figure out a way to connect the young people back to nature so that they recognize the value of getting involved in green. Our challenges are many, but our opportunity now is great. Our opportunity is great not just because we have a new administration or a new Congress. Our hope is not in just that we've had catastrophic events that have opened the eyes of American people and people around the world. Our greatest hope lies within the hearts and the eyes of the people within this audience. The people that realize that there's a major change that's happening around us, and that there's an individual call of action that faces all of us. What our generation has done and generations before me has not created a good place for you. But your actions will determine the future of the next generation and generations yet unborn. So your responsibility to the planet is just as great as ours. The question is, will you take that responsibility and move forward in a way that is unselfish but driven by a passion that we need to fix this planet and fix it now? One of the biggest challenges that I have faced across the years in the movement is to help the movement look like America. I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine by the name of Teddy Roosevelt IV. Teddy shared with me that when his grandfather, who was a sportsman, who believed very much in conservation and preservation and sustainability, back in 1936, when Teddy Roosevelt founded the National Wildlife Federation, of which I later became chairman, the conservation movement was primarily made up of sportsmen. They were those that would go out and fish and hang the fish on the wall. Where poor people that were fishing to put a fish on a plate did not join clubs. They couldn't afford to anyway. So the movement evolved as a predominantly white male movement. And over the years, we have seen the movement that has liked diversity, because poor people have focused on a list of priorities that primarily consist of quality of life issues. Poor people are more concerned about next month's rent than depletion of the ozone layer. Poor people are more concerned about health issues than the demise of the polar bear. It does not mean that poor people, if given the resources, would not engage in conservation. So when I took over the Apollo Alliance, and the board of directors asked me to build this alliance because of my background, I had worked in the petrochemical industry for over 20 years. I had been in the conservation movement for 25 years. And at the time, I had been African American for 50 years. So they said, you're perfect. You're the guy to build the Apollo Alliance, to bring together people from all walks of life, people that from diverse backgrounds, people from different sides of the track, strange bedfellows, we may say, around a common issue. And when I was offered this position, I looked at it as a major challenge, because I wondered, in a movement that was predominantly white, I joined the Louisiana Wildlife Federation, which is the largest environmental organization in the state of Louisiana. I joined the Louisiana Wildlife Federation in 1994. I had no idea when I joined they had 24,000 members. I was the only black member.